saying, hey, we're going to do it for all the movies. You're going to buy one game, you're going to play through all the movies in signature Lego Star Wars style. I'm there. I like Lego Star Wars. It's fun. It's goofy. It's silly. It's a good release, and it's still Star Wars. Coming in at number 9, Rainbow Six Quarantine kinda has the looks of a more modern Aliens concept, with more of like a blob type, disease type, probably zombie type situation going on. It's a 3-player co-op shooter.
Alright guys, since World of Warships servers went down,
it's most likely
let's jump over to this new game I downloaded. It's a mech game, HawKen.
I think that's good.
Trying to learn how to use this thing
I think that concept
here.
could work very good as a co-op shooter, but we'll also have to wait to find out more because they were very vague about this game. And
So
number
we're on
8,
day 1.
Carry On is a game that they're calling a reverse
I guess
horror
these are the
game
rewards
for
for
the reason that
logging
you
in
play
every
as
day.
the
We just played our
monster rather
first
than
match.
people trying to get away from the monster.
Now we're
the
trying to learn
premise is
how we can
you, the monster, are
upgrade these
imprisoned in a
mechs.
facility, you're being studied, and you escape. In a way, it looks very much like a Metroidvania to me, as well as kind of a physics puzzle platformer, but like much more violent, much more disturbing in its animation, and honestly really, really good. To me, looking at this just looks like such a great idea. It's not impossible to think of, what if you were the monster? Of course, but for the most part, that type of game isn't really done often or well. Evolve comes to mind. But making it as what looks like a Metroidvania, or at least close to it, as well as really smooth looking, I think Carry On is going to be a winner, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. Number 7 is Bleeding Edge, which
So you
at
can
the
buy
moment
stuff.
we're looking at what seems to kind of be a hero shooter in the vein of Overwatch, albeit very punk-oriented and a lot more chaotic. The reason for this is a melee-oriented game, which is a very different prospect than Overwatch. Now, we've seen some pretty cool melee games lately, and this comes to us from
This is going to be a learning
the
curve to learn how to
developers
do this
This is
efficiently.
Nothing like this. They claim it's been in development a number of years, but I don't know. I don't know exactly what to make of it just yet. It looks cool, though, I'll say that. If the gameplay is actually enjoyable by the time the game comes out, I think it'll probably
We got a
be
basic
a big
repair
thing because,
kit.
again, it
So
looks
gain
cool, and I
20%
like the idea
extra
of
from
melee
self-damage.
Overwatch.
Self-damage?
And at number 6, Deathloop. Oh, I am so excited to see. Deathloop is a first-person action game coming to you from the creators of Dishonored, which if you know me and you know my proclivity towards the Dishonored franchise, I'm ready for more from Arcane. Thanks for stepping in and announcing
Oh,
something,
that's
guys.
expensive.
Deathloop is about 2 quote-unquote extraordinary assassins who clearly cannot be killed. Like from the trailer, they're killing each other and then they reappear and then they fight again. And we don't know exactly what that means, but
Why
it
do we
looks
want to do a
cool as
180
hell.
spin in
And it's an
there? Let's
arcane
do
game, so we
basic.
can assume that there's some kind of supernatural element to it. I can't wait.
We'll just
Deathloop
start
looks
at the
awesome.
bottom and work our
Coming
way
in
up
at number
with these
5,
purchases.
Elden Ring, which is a collaboration between From Software, meaning Hidetaka Miyazaki, and
okay,
George
we'll work on
R.
our
R.
mechs
Martin
later. Let's
of
get
the
back
Song
into
of
the
Ice and
game.
Fire / Game of Thrones fan. Now, what we've seen of it is very minimal, and I think you'll probably hear me say that a lot, but I do have to say I think it has the look, so to speak.
So I guess it's just
Obviously,
a battle
From
royal,
Software
all
look,
out
it goes a little bit more high
region,
fantasy, and from
North
what we've heard so
America.
far, it's going to be more like Dark Souls and Sekiro, and it's going to be bigger than anything they've done before. Coming in at number 4, Blair Witch is definitely something different. I mean, if there was ever a movie that was kind of made in a perfect manner to be a video game, it's Blair Witch. And for whatever reason, we never really got any attempts to adapt it. Blair Witch being a kind of low-budget horror movie that scared the pants off a lot of people because
I wasn't
they
even
thought
in
it
the
was
first
real.
season.
There had not really been a lot of found footage movies up until that point, and for whatever reason, nobody's really done like a full-blown, hey, I'm going to attempt to make this movie, but as a game. In that respect, this looks very promising. They really nailed quite a feel from the trailer that I think is very conducive to what that game would be, and I really look forward to finding out more about it. And at number 3, Baldur's Gate 3 is a sequel to the long-thought-dead series, Baldur's Gate, of course, and in truth, we've seen a very minimal amount of this game. We
It's
just
how
got a
we
cinematic
play.
trailer, we just know that it exists. The devs were on stage, they've talked a little bit, not a lot. I think we are all excited to know that the developers of Divinity Original Sin 2 are making the next Baldur's Gate game. I mean, that's a big piece of information, but beyond that, we have lots of questions. We saw no
Well,
gameplay, we got no real specifics.
Can't seem to get
but
out
hey,
of the
we know
screen
we're
for
going to
some
get
reason.
Baldur's Gate 3 before Half-Life 3, right? That's a pretty interesting fact. And at number
What's
2,
going on
Watch
this
Dogs Legion is an ambitious jump in the Watch Dogs series. Obviously, when the original came out, there were certain expectations, and they didn't quite manage it, but Watch Dogs 2, on the other hand, was a huge jump. Now, rather than rest on the laurels, it looks very much like they're attempting to do even more. That's great because Watch Dogs 2 is a significantly better game than Watch Dogs 1. In a lot of ways, they do attempt to continue the path they were on with Watch Dogs 2, but they're adding things like a recruitment system, an old lady you can play as, which I'm not going to complain about, that's hilarious. And it seems like with Watch Dogs 2, they delivered on the promise of Grand Hack Auto, and it seems like they're expanding. I'm excited to see what they do with it. It's in London, it's very different setting-wise, and looks cool to me. And finally, number 1, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. Like, let's just go ahead and be very frank here. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a great game. It's a game that sometimes takes a little bit of time to warm up to because it is very restrictive, very limiting, and can be pretty harsh regarding your weapons. But once you get into it, it's amazing.
It's usually why I play a game before I start
gone
streaming,
and
so
kind
I
of not
understand
having things to do in it anymore was kind of sad in a way. Lo and behold, Nintendo's like, hey, we're gonna give you more of that. All right, Nintendo, I'm there for it. Which of these games are you most interested in? What shows the most potential? What do you think will be the coolest when it actually comes out? Leave us a comment, let us know what you think, and if you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click the subscribe button and the notification bell. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at FalconHero, and we'll see you next time right here on Game Ranks.
So we want to play the game.
Hey folks, Jake Baldino here, E3 2019. As usual, we always talk about like the news, all the new games announced, but we're gonna try something different with this video and talk about the best games we actually played, the ones we got our hands on. So keep in mind, not everything here is playable. Some stuff they just show it to you, like Avengers. We didn't get our hands on a controller, but we do have 5 games we played ourselves that we really like.
The
first
joys
one at
of
number 5 is
online,
Borderlands 3. Borderlands 3 is a good one. We've had our hands on it before at events and stuff, but it's just a really damn good time. It's still Borderlands, but it feels a little bit fresher, it moves a little faster, controls a little better, it just feels more modern FPS, you know? Weapon types are really good. The few that we did get to experience, there is a good variety between them. It's actually got some really kick-ass shotgun feel, which is something I think is really important to a shooter, am I right? Like if there's no shotgun, dude, it's like garbage. Essentially, it's really like the simplest game on our list. If you're into Borderlands, it's what you like, it's what you come to Borderlands for, but it does seem better. The new character types do seem interesting. The ults are pretty cool, a little creative and a little outside the box, and really, it's just a damn good time. It's just that one of those social shooters, a shooter you want to play with a friend. You've probably done it before with Borderlands 2, stuff like that. You're likely going to be doing it again with this. Next up at number 4 is The Outer Worlds, a game that has been my most anticipated for a while, and I was fortunate enough to get my hands on it at a behind-closed thing at a pre-E3 event, and I can't say too much actually. A lot of it's still embargoed, but it's cool. Essentially, if you are looking for a Fallout New Vegas spiritual successor, it's exactly what it is. You can tell from the trailer, and you can tell from the E3 presentation they give here, it's focused on dialogue trees and deception and little stats. I love how creatively they do stuff here, where you can, the more you play, develop different attributes essentially. So the scenario we got to see was sneaking into a robot factory, and eventually your disguise is up, you fight some robots, then you get hit with something called robophobia. You develop robophobia, and if you want to take that, you essentially take a hit to your dexterity and damage when you're fighting robots because you're afraid of them. But on the flip side, you get a new perk point. Just creative little ways like that, just some RPG as hell stuff I really like. We also got to see a lot of action with the disguise system. If you're good enough on charisma and certain technologies, you can develop a hologram disguise, and then there's a whole disguise system in the game where you have 3 strikes and how you can talk your way out of situations, and I love that. And what I've seen so far and what I've gotten to touch for the Outer Worlds has really just been side quests, and all the side quests have been really compelling. Graphically, it's a little whack. It looks old and busted, honestly, but like the charm and the game design is really there. I'm still curious to see how like fulfilling the shooting and melee will be. I like the weapon customization, the stuff you can do. If you have science attributes, you can make badass science guns, but how that's really going to feel moment to moment, I still need to play more to see. Again, I gotta reiterate though, like if you're down with like those RPGs, if you like Obsidian, and if you were obsessed with New Vegas, I think this is going to be the game for you. I'm just saying, it's early, but that's what I'm calling. And next up at number 3 is Final Fantasy VII, the remake. It's actually very good. I have been so skeptical of this the whole time. I know a lot of you guys out there have, like, where did it go, right? It was gone for like a long time, development hell. I'm still not into the fact that they're dividing it up episodically. The first game essentially is going to only be the Midgar chunk, but if you played Final Fantasy VII, you know there's so much more to it. But what I got to do was just a couple of little bits of exploration and some battles. Essentially the early area of the game, you know, when you're essentially going and infiltrating the factory and blowing up with Barret, you fight that big red robot, and that's where the game felt a lot like an RPG. Now, it's not turn-based. I'm jammed up about that. I would have so loved it if they just went turn-based again. But they have more of an active battle system similar to Final Fantasy 15. Now, whether you like Final Fantasy 15 or hate Final Fantasy 15, I think this one does a way better job of retaining the RPG feel. The fact that the pausing and like assessing the battle is so integral to the combat, even more so than 15, I think makes it work really well. The ATB gauge and how that works with your abilities I find really satisfying. Using items, managing your position and blocking. It seems like a lot at times, but I found it to be really satisfying and way more than I expected. And I did feel like I was still playing a Final Fantasy RPG, despite the fact that as Cloud, I was able to dodge and hit and do whatever I wanted. Despite having the freedom, I do think the RPG combat elements still shine through and what made the original game special, especially just the experience of it, like the music, the visuals, the fact that like the world actually looks now like the pre-rendered backgrounds we used to have, and all the art is amazing, and I think that's going to be really worth experiencing. I'm still, like I said, skeptical of the release model and what they're doing. The small chunk I got to play really convinced me that it's going to be fun and very good. Next up at number 2 is Doom Eternal. Now, I'm super biased. I love Doom 2016. It's like my favorite thing ever. And Doom Eternal does a really good job of adding a bunch of elements on to the point where I was worried it would disrupt the flow of gameplay when you get a good run going. But thankfully it all works really well. The ability to not only just chainsaw somebody to get something, but to also set them on fire with your flamethrower first, then chainsaw them. So essentially you pop ammo and then you also pop armor because they were on fire. Just adds a new layer of strategy to a game that's so freaking intense and stupid. You actually have to think, and I love that. The new movement and traversal stuff is wild. I was a little worried that it was just more to do, more to keep you busy, but some of the traversal environment stuff, platforming, if you will, is pretty dope. He literally when you grab a wall, he just shoves his hand into the wall and climbs up like the Hulk. The Doom guy is badass.
Yeah,
also,
no
that movement goes forward when you're in combat and stuff, and you're
definitely
double
no
jump, dash forward. You can grab
like
poles and swing on them. You can grab a wall, climb up the wall, jump off the wall. It's a lot, but it makes it fun because it makes it feel like you're playing like the floor is lava, and you're hopping around a level and you're shooting enemies, but you're not trying to touch the ground. It can be really, really satisfying, and I just found like it added a new level of fun factor. I'm still a little weirded out about how the camera will pan back and show the new guy is cutscene, and like they used to kind of hide it, but like now you can clearly see his face in the visor. That's really weird, but I'm so down with what they're doing. We've all gotten to play it here, and we're all like pretty damn into it, so that's why we put it on the list. It was just great. And finally, down to number 1, our favorite game we played at E3. Can you guess what it is? Really, you can't? It's Star Wars. Jedi Fallen Order. Yeah, it's very good. I've been skeptical of this one as well. I'm a diehard Star Wars fan, so there is some bias there. But I got to spend a lot of time just experiencing the combat, and I actually think that they're underselling this one, like I've said about Modern Warfare and stuff like that. There's a lot of Metroidvania elements here and a lot of exploration, to the point where every planet has a landing pad where you can just post up and hang out. There's a vendor, you can go inside your ship, look at a star map, access that star map, fly to a different planet whenever you want. It's a lot more than I expected. The map has a fog of war that you have to, grow, and it has different colored doors and different colored sections, like a Metroidvania, where you got to get stuff and then go back later to get through it. There's a little bit more thought, environmental thought involved than I thought. Now, there is the combat which is pretty dope. It's very Sekiro. It's very Dark Souls. People are probably gonna get mad that like those comparisons are being thrown around. It's definitely way easier. They have confirmed that the demo, the gameplay demo, they did tone down the difficulty, but I was able to play like a challenge rank too. It got to some pretty hard encounters. I got to play an ATST, and I think the combat's pretty satisfying. A lot of guys, human characters, will go down in 1 or 2 hits. A simple stormtrooper you can disarm and take him out in 1 hit, as it should feel for Star Wars. It's not overly gory. Because of Lucasfilm, apparently they couldn't go overboard on the gore, but it does fit in. It feels right. Now, the game has all the exploration elements, but they are punctuated with set piece moments. So, in the trailer, you know, the part where you see Cal and he's swimming in the water and he climbs up the AT-AT, that's how I say it. Some people are not gonna like that, but how do you say it? AT-AT or? Thank you. I'll see you. Okay, you're one of us.
What am I gonna say?
They do say AT-AT in the game, the lore, which is cool because it can go either way. So I like that the game is playing with that. Like he says AT-AT. But that whole climbing sequence was essentially just like, they call them Star Wars moments. The game is punctuated with just cool, fun parts that don't tie into the progression or exploration, rather. It's just like a fun part in the game, a lot of story stuff, and generally I think it's very satisfying. Timing your parry to deflect bullets I think is one of the most satisfying things in the game, as well as the force pull to stab a guy, kind of like Finn in Force Awakens. I mean, he didn't force pull, but he like stabbed that dude like that. That was so cool. Plus too, like going off the record and just like speaking with the lead combat designer about like, you know, their thought process behind developing the lightsaber combat and who Cal is as a Jedi, I thought was really cool. I think they actually give a shit, and that's huge. I do really like that the abilities are mapped to the triggers, so like force push, force pull, slow down, stuff like that. Whereas swinging your lightsaber is just like a regular mapped button. I think it works really well. I'm curious to see how it holds up in harder difficulties, because that's how I want it to be. But I came away really, really impressed with Star Wars, especially all the exploration stuff I didn't expect, and I am pumped to get my hands on the full game. But those are the biggest things we got to play at E3, the things we came away the most impressed with. But I want to hear from you guys down in the comments. If you've been following E3, the coverage and stuff, it's been a little bit of a quiet year, but I want to know what you're into. Also, if you're here, maybe you said hi to me, thank you if you're one of those people. But also, if you are here and you got to see something or play something, I want to know what you think. Of course, we can talk about any of this stuff. We do have a couple more E3 videos coming out, so keep your eyes peeled for those. But if you enjoyed this and maybe I taught you a couple things, maybe you learned a couple new things, clicking the like button does help us out. We would really appreciate that. But if you're new, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell, because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Pizza's on me.
That strategy didn't work.
Let's start off with number 10.
But
Talk about the motorcycle. We got
you could get 4 or 5 mechs to get into a defensive
so I guess
position like that.
Confirmed. In this case, it was a bright red Yaiba Kasanaga, and this thing was badass. Now it can be driven like the car,
pretty good strategy.
First person or third person perspective, and you can do burnouts. Not only is it extremely fast, but we got to see flipping through radio stations in action while driving, and the music sounds really awesome too. Now, one small observation I wanted to point out that I really love: you can engage in conversations with NPCs while you're on your bike, and maybe NPCs in the car. Like you can pull up, look over, and talk at someone just who's standing in a parking lot or whatever, without having to hop off the bike. Sometimes it's just smaller little design choices like this that add up to good stuff, and this might be one of them. Also, motorcycles are cool. Now, next at number 9, moving on over to the meat and potatoes of actual gameplay. Now, we previously noted that the game has a fluid class system, and you can develop and play your character how you want and not restrict yourself to specific class stuff. So the developers playing the mission we saw swapped between 2 different saves with 2 different playstyles. The first was the strong solo type thing. Their focus was on guns blazing, combat enhancing drugs, and brute strength. Here, melee attacks hit way harder, and while with most playstyles, it's definitely someone to control and grab them and decide what to do with them. With this character's strength attributes, you can actually hold on to a person for way longer, and even drag them around and use them as a really ridiculous huge shield. Now you can also get through locked doors, not by using your brain, but by literally ripping doors open with your powerful robot arms. Also, you can find placed security turrets and you can pry them open and pull the giant gun down with them and just throw them through. And it's really awesome. Now on the flip side over at number 8, we got to see some playthrough in the style of Netrunner, or like the cyberpunk world super plugged in hacker style. Now CD Projekt Red once again reiterated that you can get through the entire game without killing anyone, and Netrunner's abilities definitely seem to help with that. Now you can activate and see traces like trails that you follow to find hidden control panels in the environment that control the local area networks. You engage in a hacking puzzle to gain access, and the better you do, the more stuff you can control. Now you can get the doors really easily, point at security cameras and deactivate them, and since everything in the feature is connected to a network, you can sabotage all kinds of stuff to keep people out and make it look like an accident. Kind of like Hitman style. At one point there was a dude working out and he hacked a lifting bench press machine and it slammed down on the bad guy and killed him. Now you can also activate grenades on enemy belts to explode them. Why not? There's really just a lot going on with the Netrunner option that I don't have time to cover all of it, but it's all way more interesting than just like your standard hacker RPG playthrough. I honestly think the Netrunner abilities might be some of the best stuff in the game, but that's just me. Now, moving on to number 7, last time we were introduced to the Maelstrom, which is a gang of these super augmented, some more machine than man, bloodthirsty dudes. You remember them from that demo. They were absolutely crazy, had glowing lights on stuff on their faces. They were weird and mean. We didn't see them this time around. This time we got 2 new factions in Pacifica. First, we got the Voodoo Boys, who are a group of secretive Netrunners with Haitian ties. Then we also ran into another gang called the Animals. Now, these are some real rough and tumble buff boys who all look like they love to talk about CrossFit. These guys have body modifications like, you know, giant arms, and they are way into straight up brute force and physicality. They use a strength enhancing drink called Juice that makes them really Hulk out in a gross way. Plus, if you're not prepared, they can basically rush into combat, and it looks like it gets really intense. There's a current dispute in the demo between the two, as the Animals are where they should be occupying a rundown mall in the town, which is pissing off the boys, which is where we come in, because of course you're throwing smack dab in the middle. Now they hinted and referenced that there would be more factions revealed in the time between now and release, but hey, we've been dying for any new info, so we'll take it. Now at number 6, we gotta talk about it, you know, unless you've been living under a rock. Keanu Reeves is in Cyberpunk 2077, which is weird as hell, but also super cool and really fitting in a good way. Now, Mr. Jonathan Wick, or Mr. Anderson himself, is going to be playing Johnny Silverhand, whose true nature and motives we're still kind of unclear on, but in a demo shown, he shows up as a sort of weird rogue AI ghost in the machine type deal, who just often pops up and hangs out in your periphery and only interacts with you. Honestly, it's a lot like the stuff in Batman Arkham Knight, when Batman had the Joker just in his head messing with him the whole time. It seems like a really cool way to take it, especially given how he's totally acting like an asshole in this game. But like we said, the character as portrayed in Cyberpunk 2077 in particular is still very much kind of a mystery to us at this point. But it's incredibly fair to speculate that the character will have a much bigger role to play than we've seen, most likely related to the mysterious chip with a link to the secret of immortality in V's possession. But honestly, at this point, we and everyone else are just kind of spitballing. But hey, we'll know for sure soon, right? Now, at number 5, when you create your character at the start, you also, you know, in typical RPG fashion, you select stuff that gives you an origin story. The cool thing that we had to learn for us is that these early life choices will affect your dialogue options. So the example we saw was that one of the chosen early life origins was a street kid designation. Presumably your V character was a young man who grew up on rough streets. So because of that, in certain scenarios, like when you're challenged by a tough guy, V had an extra dialogue choice labeled Street Kid, and it was essentially a street smart way to talk your way out of a rough situation. Now, some of the variety of dialogue choices is downright staggering, and this system, tying into it, is a really cool example we wanted to make the whole. But moving on to number 4, just a brief one, cyberspace is confirmed. We got to see hidden data hideaway. Now, I won't spoil how you get there, really, but they touched on just how vast the cyberspace was, and that you were going to explore the deepest, uncharted areas of it where no one has ever returned from. It's really, really cool sci-fi stuff, and visually, it was also fascinating. I'm glad that they're exploring these elements in the game, and I can't wait to see where they take it. Next, over at number 3, Cyberpunk Night City is confirmed to utilize 60 districts. They're not locked by loading screens
MVP
one world,
unlocked.
but the interesting one we got to see in our E3 demo was Pacifica, a sort of collapsed oasis. Apparently this district was built up by the corporations years ago as a high-end luxury resort area, but then they bailed down and now it's like a sad abandoned place filled with gangs. There's abandoned piers and theme parks in the distance too, but for the civilian NPCs, apparently the main language is Haitian Creole, and if you have the right translator update, you can see the text convert to English in real time. Now the mission we got to see go down involved both the voodoo boys and the animals we mentioned earlier, so it's safe to say they both definitely have a presence in this area. Also, the world does have a dynamic
7-4,
day
better
and night
KD
lighting
on that
system,
one.
and it looks really, really nice. It will have ray tracing. Also, they confirmed that the game will have a photo booth. So really just more good stuff, pretty much just a cherry on top of all the stuff we're already talking about. But down at number 2, to piggyback off of the new different districts the game has, it's worth noting that those different districts is how the street cred stat comes into play. Now, we saw the street cred rating in last year's demo, but they didn't actually really go into it and explain how it works. Now we got some idea at least. We don't have like in-depth info, but
Yeah,
we
we
have
gotta
a
figure out
general idea. Basically,
different
in those
styles
different
of
districts
mechs,
of
the
Night
different
City,
weapons.
it
I heard
seems like
that
your
minigun
actions
at one mech was
affect that street cred
and
rating
I want
with
that
the
minigun.
people of
That
those
sounds
specific
awesome.
districts. And depending on that street cred
And
rating,
let's
the
see.
people will react to you differently. So it's more of an incentive to be mindful of your actions and how they affect
Start
the
off
world.
your
Like we said, it's not a ton
in
of new
this
info,
area.
but it's definitely something we were curious about, so we're just glad to have an idea of it now. But finally, at number 1, we know there's a decent amount of new info to take in, but thankfully, it's not as
And
far
you're in
off as we
third-person
once
mode.
speculated. At Microsoft's
barely drops
E3
you
media
on
briefing,
first-person mode.
they dropped that juicy release date. You'll be able to play it yourself on Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC on April 16th, 2020. As with all the big games these days, it's going to have some options on how you buy it too. You can buy it physically on PC or on the digital storefront of your choice, be
Go
it
that
Steam,
way.
GOG, or Epic Game Store if you're into that. You can also pick up the game physically for all platforms in either the standard, regular edition, or the big meaty $200 collector's edition. That one gets you the game, still look, a 10-inch statue of the protagonist V, a hardcover art book, a metal pin set, keychain, Night City visitor guide, an evidence bag, border patches, a map of the city, honestly a bunch of stuff. But really the game, at least what we've seen so far, is going to be so big that all these little knickknacks aren't going to keep you busy as much as they need. But we're just keeping you guys informed. This is what we saw, this is what we learned at E3 2019, Cyberpunk 2077. We want to know what you guys think down in the comments. How are you feeling on this game? Maybe you went to E3, maybe you got to see it. We would love to hear what you think. Apparently they will put out this gameplay
can pick
eventually, but
stuff
for now
up.
we wanted to provide you guys with the details. Let's talk about anything Cyberpunk down in the comments. But of course, if you learned something from this video, clicking the like button
things on
really
the
helps us out. We would totally appreciate that. But if you're new, consider subscribing as well,
you
because
can
we put out
restore
videos like
your
this
health.
every
I
single
gotcha.
day. But as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
You walk over those things, you restore your health.
At GameRanks, we've done a lot of Easter egg videos. We've done countdowns for stuff like Uncharted 4, Doom, Overwatch, Dark Souls, and stuff. But this time, we're casting a huge net as we talk about 7 of the most elaborate Easter eggs of all time. These are really crazy and weird, so strap on your big boy pants. Let's get started off with number 7. In The Binding of Isaac, developer Edmund McMillan decided to have a little bit of fun with the fan base. Added
Repair.
expansion to the game. In it, he included an Easter egg that was so big and complex and freaking weird that it couldn't actually be contained within the game itself. It started off with a new mode in Afterbirth called Greed, in which players fight waves and waves of enemies, and then there's also a
So this
donation
must
machine which you
be
use
the
to earn better
back
items
end,
for
so
future runs,
this
but
way to get
players actually
out.
caught on curiously that the donation machine only went up to 109 coins instead of the usual 999. This was patched
Still
at
just
the
trying to figure out some
100th
of the
hour no
controls.
less. And along with that patch, it came with
So
a
left
Steam
button is
achievement
hover.
for donating 999 coins. It was strange
stick
image
is-
that kind of looked like Morse code. Now, of course, someone on Reddit user MetalX, translated the code, which led him to an Imgur page. It had this 109 by
left stick is
109
just
dimension
straight.
image with 8 shadows, a map, the character The Lost, and a passage from Genesis 30:35. Yeah, we're getting even deeper. And eventually, astute players actually caught on and realized that McMillan had been dropping hints to get people to check out the Santa Cruz boardwalk.
is
When someone
everybody?
actually did venture there, they found this missing poster. Notice the missing numbers at the bottom. Yep, that's 109. Calling this phone number would lead to a voicemail message. On November 13th, the voicemail was replaced with a new message that
sometimes,
said,
obviously, that
Christ
doesn't
calls,
work.
generous gods don't guide history forever. Knowledge works. His final form is beyond crazy. If you thought that was really weird and ridiculous, things get even more crazy. McMillan, who had been tweeting out hints here and there about whether or not taking into consideration the fact that part of the fact make it negative. And with that, you get a series of GPS coordinates that point to a building in Santa Ana with the building number, and that building number is, you probably guessed it, 109. When members of the community went to those coordinates, they found a yellow poster with 4 Bible quotes on it with a picture of a person
Do not
growing
have-
up,
do you only have
growing
so many
old, and dying
repairs?
on the back. In addition, there was also a pile of change on the ground,
Well,
and
not
since
bad.
McMillan on Twitter had been so adamant about needing to go hundreds of pages to find a very unique statue of writing on it. By using the writing on the statue, the community was able to discover a Twitter page for Greed with the Twitter address at
Trying to repair, but I couldn't
body.
repair. I don't
After
know.
the community logged into the
You
account
only have,
and
like,
quote-unquote
so
gave him
many?
a voice as hinted on the statue by
Yeah, got to do some
posting.
studying on
Developers
this game.
uploaded an achievement
But
unlocked
pretty
image
fun so
saying
far.
the community unlocked something hidden. As of right now, that's the conclusion of this ridiculous Easter egg. The whole ordeal did lead to a character called the Keeper to be unlocked within the game. And with that, it concluded one of the most elaborate Easter eggs of all time. Or did it? And at number 6, literally any zombies map Easter egg from Black Ops and Black Ops 2 could be featured here. But I'm going to single out the moon Easter egg from Black Ops 1. Specifically, steps 1 and 2 require you to get the Easter egg called and check the box. The 2 previous Black Ops DLC zombie maps Easter egg itself is really the culmination of the entire zombie story up to before Black Ops 2 was released, and as such, the requirements to see it through to the end were really insane. Requiring players to find computer terminals and place silent citizens and then find more terminals and having another person be ready to press a bunch of buttons and quick interception, and then you had to make sure that the excavator breached a specific tunnel, then you had to knife a floating ball, yes, until it activated a machine that could only be utilized by gathering zombie souls next to it. Then you needed to throw grenades to knock down a bunch of players gathered by a device. Take them back into the computer. Then you must find the pipe in the lab to connect the computer to the drill device. Then you jump back to the pyramid and kill enough zombies to fill up 4 tubes of zombie souls. Then throw that switch again, and then transport the nuclear injection back outside. And using the device on it, play Simon Says again, and then sit back and watch the Earth explode. That is a crazy complicated Easter egg for something like that, but it did hook people. People did figure it out. And at number 5, let's get a little light and talk about this weird one from
Yeah,
Shenmue
but you only get so many
involving
repairs.
ducks. As you probably expect, this Easter egg to start. Once you start airing out books for Zayang and you meet Fangmei, hit the town and talk to these 2
dude's got
NPCs.
camouflage?
Zumi
Are you
in the
kidding me?
tomato store, and Eileen, who is
You can get a
practicing
cloaking
martial arts
device?
in the workers' pier part of Pigeon Park. You must then head down this alley and pick up a large bronze medal. With that medal, you can then head to the top of the floor of the arcade and finally have a fight with Eileen. Once you win, head back up there again, and you'll have another fight with Azumi, and if you win, she'll promise to show you a special place. Once you win, head back up to the tomato store and you'll find her, and she'll take you to a hidden spot where you can bet on duck races. Yes, but we're not done yet. You can actually go back to the shrine at the start of Disc 2 where you learn to catch leaves. Focus on catching 2 leaves at once, and you'll eventually hear a quack, which will be followed by a white feather falling from the sky. Catch that feather, and you'll spot a duck on top of the tree that you can catch and make your own personal duck that you can control in those duck races. That's totally weird and random, right? It's not just me, especially considering it's such a seemingly big thing and it's so intensely hidden. But I love it, and I love Shenmue going forward. At number 4, we have an Easter egg mystery that still to this day hasn't been completely solved. We're talking about that mystery of Mount Shasta in Grand Theft Auto 5. Now, this is something that started way back when GTA 5 was first released, and everyone thought the journey up to the highest point, San Andreas, where they would no doubt find this mysterious mural atop Mount Chiliad, accompanied by a message that says, "Come back when your story is complete." Now, of course, speculation would run rampant, especially considering the mural has 3 pictures of an egg, a man with a jetpack, and a UFO, if that's not cryptic enough. Over time, players discovered a number of murals, and in addition, these symbols also appeared at the hippie camp nearby. Eventually, it was discovered that you can actually find 3 airborne UFOs. First, above the Canada's shores, then above Fort Zancudo, and finally, one on top of Mount Chiliad that only appears at 3 a.m. on spring. Also, to keep in track, there's also another Toledo Bay. What does it all really mean? How does it reflect back on the mural? Again, there's tons of speculation, but as of right now, no one truly knows. The result of Grand Theft Auto 5 on the Xbox One and PS4 brought with it a bunch of new secrets, including golden peyotes, which transform the player into Bigfoot, and those can actually be found on a specific day of the week in foggy weather between 6 and 8 a.m. Do these peyotes have anything to do with the Mount Chiliad mystery? Is the mystery already solved? Only Rockstar really knows, and of course, Rockstar being Rockstar, they're not really saying anything about it. At number 3, we have to talk about the 3 red cubes from Fez. The amount of secrets that are actually tucked away in Fez is pretty staggering, but it was the 3 red cubes one that set the Fez crazy. As players went and scribbled notes down on pads and deciphering cryptic.
Alright, let's check and see.
And really, they did anything they could to possibly find the logic in solving 3
can
of
figure out
Fez's
what the
most
different
unique
mechs
puzzles.
are.
Basically, there are these 3
what
red
their
cube
strengths
puzzles
and
that you have to
weaknesses
go back and solve after finishing the game. The first one is in the telescope room. The second one is
to
really
the
tricky with some code
garage.
deciphering. And the third one, you basically kind of just have to brute force it to figure it out. A lot of people don't even know how exactly they did it. But hey, if you do all that, you unlock the 3 red cubes. All you really get is the satisfaction of knowing that you did it and you're crazy enough to figure it all out. And moving on to number 2, we have an extremely elaborate Easter egg, surprisingly, from Battlefield 4. This is the famous Dragon Valley Easter egg. Now, it's insanely complicated to break down, like all the stuff in this video. So I'm going to be paraphrasing a lot, but basically what you've got to do is find a series of 7 extremely hard to find switches in the Dragon Valley map of Battlefield 4. The most difficult thing, though, is that each of these switches activate different lanterns on different parts of the map, and it's all server-based, and it's going to be completely random at times. After probably many hours of trying this, once you get all the lanterns
so that
light,
game
you'll be
is
granted
obviously a little
access to
buggy too.
D-pad
So
that
we're
will
going to
give
end
you
the
a
stream
Morse
there.
code.
We
That
streamed for
Morse code will
35
then
minutes.
send you on
Need
basically
to
a
learn a
map
little bit
hopping
more
trip
about
to
that
find
game
more
before I
Morse
come back
code,
streaming so we can
specifically
be a
a
little more
graveyard
effective
shift
at
that
it.
will
So
give you one final Morse
if you guys
code
like
for you to
this, leave me
enter
some
a very
comments down
specific
below.
code
Let me
at
know
a
if you
very
want to see
specific
more of this
time
on
a
Saturdays.
certain map during a certain
For
type
our
of game
streaming
mode. And if you
Saturdays.
do all of that, you know what you get? A special Dice LA camo.